In what may be the biggest mistake of the Kamala Harris campaign, and that is coming from a long line of mistakes, by the way, mistakes like changing your accent from speech to speech, or having literally no policies, or the policies that you do have were stolen from Donald Trump and JD Vance, or of course saying something along the lines of, there's nothing she would change about the Joe Biden presidency. Yeah, now she's decided to attempt to play hardball when coming on the Joe Rogan show stating, these are my terms and demands if we were to do this.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idol, and yeah, if you hadn't heard, this is from Joe himself. Austin Text Podcast or Let Her Walk. Thoughts. Kamala tells Joe podcast demands. For the record, the Harris campaign has not passed on doing the podcast. He is being very generous. They have passed. In my opinion, they gave these demands knowing Joe wouldn't go for them. This is their way of saving face, of placating him, or more importantly, placating their audience of moronic libtards that will eat up everything she says. They offered a date for Tuesday, but I would have had to travel to her, and they only wanted to do an hour. I strongly feel the best way to do this is in the studio in Austin. My sincere wish is to just have a nice conversation, get to know her as a human being. I really hope we can make it happen. And to be fair, I 100% believe this. I 100% believe this. Joe Rogan said this multiple times. He's said it while talking to Trump. He has said it since then. He has now said it on X and Instagram, it seems. There is no reason for her. In fact, her not going on the show was going to be the biggest mistake of her, career, or at least of this campaign. But now trying to make demands when there's a very obvious format to the show that, it encapsulates, it just captures viewers of the young male demographic, a demographic she so desperately needs, trying to make these demands only makes her look worse, to the point to where even we got the news covered. In this given of Newsweek, Joe Rogan refuses Kamala Harris' conditions for podcast interview. Joe Rogan said he is still in talks with an interview with Kamala Harris, but he won't agree to the terms suggested by the campaign. Are they still in talks at this point? I don't think so. I'm gonna be real. I don't think so. There's no way that the Kamala Harris campaign is going to sit there for 3 hours, have open dialogue. I'm sure they probably would have said, here's the list of questions you ask, or here's a list of things that are off the table, which actually, that second one isn't really a big deal because Joe himself said if there are certain things you don't want to cover, we won't cover them. Now, I think that's a mistake, but hey, sometimes you do sort of gotta, play the game. I'll be real. I don't know which would be better, for her to go on the show and be lapped into oblivion with the correct parameters, which is 2 to 3 hours of conversation and just see where it goes. Just natural dialogue between individuals, and then her being shown to an audience of millions for the buffoon that she really is, or would it be better for her just to skip out on it and we see what an absolute coward she is? Because it's basically signifying her weakness. She knows she can't go toe-to-toe with Joe. She knows that whatever questions he asks, she's not going to have an answer for. I mean, she's recently said herself one of the, a weakness and something that's, very important to learn is to be prepared for questions, and yet she hasn't taken her own advice. Then again, I don't know if she's actually been in any sort of interview since the CNN one, which you got roasted by the the NBC one, which got roasted by members of CNN. I mean, Anderson Cooper was roasting Kamala Harris. When you got CNN roasting you, and CNN is the ultimate fallback guys for the Democratic Party, you know you screwed up. Also, for the record, the Harris campaign does not pass. That was what he wrote on X. Newsweek has reached out to the Harris campaign for comment via email outside of regular working hours. The discussions came after Donald Trump sat for a 3-hour-long interview on the Joe Rogan Experience in the podcaster's studio in Austin on Friday. The highly anticipated interview was widely watched, generating 36 million views on YouTube at the time of writing, and it was largely well received by swing voters. I mean, look, I'm not a swing voter. We all know I'm on that MAGA train. I'm Trump. I'm voting Trump. That being said, I've talked to plenty of friends that I don't know if they're swing voters or not. I don't know if they're secretly, Trump supporters, or maybe they just don't care about politics, because we all have those friends that truly just do not give a shit. But even they watched it, or at least watched clips of it or parts of it, because they thought it was interesting, and they have told me that they kind of see Trump in a new light now. Now, is that new light going to mean they're voting for Trump? I don't know. I don't care to ask. I'm more interested in the conversation of how people are perceiving Trump post Joe Rogan interview. But it's still been a very interesting topic of conversation among my circle of friends. The former president took a break from the campaign trail to travel for the interview, which resulted in him being hours late to his own rally in Traverse City, Michigan. And that was a good thing. I mean, look, you are going on to the biggest podcast on Spotify, one of, if not the biggest, on YouTube. It was the biggest for a long time. Every now and again it's dethroned for like a small length of time. The point is, 34 million people, 36 million people by the time this article was written has watched this. They weren't all Trump supporters to begin with. Some of them might still to this point be the diehard Trump haters, but he knew the power of the Joe Rogan experience. Or if he didn't, at least Barron did. And, if Barron's out there giving the, giving the details, yo, dad, I'm young, I'm hip, I know what's going on. Yeah, listen to the young male voters. Those are the people you need to court. Now, granted, Donald Trump also needs to court women. I don't really know how he's doing with that because I don't personally trust polls, but we'll see when election day comes in quite literally less than a week as of recording this. The former president took a break from the campaign. Sorry, we got that. Trump supporters on social media widely praised his stamina and work ethic for traveling to the interview in between campaign stops. During the interview, Trump and Rogan spoke about the possibility of Harris being on the podcast. She was supposed to do it. She might still do it. I hope she does, Rogan says. Now, of course, when Rogan said this on the podcast, this was prior to her saying, yeah, no, here's the demands. But the demands are insane. 1 hour. Like 1 hour and Joe has to travel to her. That completely breaks the format of the show. There's no reason for even if Joe Rogan fans were to tune in, they would be doing it more out of an obligation because they enjoy Joe Rogan. It would actually sour any potential Joe Rogan swing voters to you because you are changing the format that they have grown so accustomed to. The Republican nominee's decision to make time for Rogan demonstrates the power of comedian and UFC commentator turned leading podcaster. Rogan's podcast is the most popular on... See, right there, most popular on Spotify, where he has more than 14 million followers. His channel on YouTube has nearly 18 million followers, and his videos regularly draw in millions of views. His audience is largely young and male, a demographic that Trump is popular with, and that Harris seeks to court. Bingo, bango, bongo, you heard it here first, folks. This, again, I don't want to see Harris court young males. I think Harris is a cancer on the American populace, or at least will be a cancer on the American populace. But if we're trying to look at this objectively and be like, hey, what would be good for the campaign? Nutting up and going there and doing it for 3 hours and showing that you can do what Trump did, by God, maybe do it better. Okay, we all know that's not going to happen, but the point is, at least giving it the old college try would look better for her in the long run, because now, not only is she not doing it, but J.D. Vance is sitting down with Joe Rogan. We got the double whammy. Kamala's out here running, tail between her legs, and J.D. Vance is going to sit down with Joe Rogan. Former President Trump did a 3-hour interview with the Joe Rogan Experience podcast on Friday. Now, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance is set to record the Joe Rogan Experience podcast on Wednesday. A spokesperson for Vance confirmed to Fox News Digital the Republican vice presidential nominee will sit down with Joe Rogan Wednesday morning in Austin, Texas. That is huge news. Now, is it going to come out same day like it did, I guess by the time you're seeing this, because I'm recording it a day in advance, the interview is today. Is he going to release it day of like he did with Trump? I mean, by this point, there will be, 5 days left of the election. This is another thing that's going to potentially court more voters because Vance is kind of a wild card. I actually think that Vance might be more divisive than Trump, mainly just because there are a lot of, frankly, further right-wing ideologies behind him. He's also, in my opinion, he's likable, he's fun, he knows how to troll, he understands the younger generation, him being a millennial himself, or I'm pretty sure he's a millennial. Either way, the dude's young, he's got the traditional values down, multiple kids, beautiful wife, by the way, interracial marriage, if I do recall. I mean, J.D. Vance has quite literally so much going for him. However, he is portrayed as even further right-wing than Trump. Shouldn't be saying much. Trump is actually kind of a moderate. But that the media doesn't really care about that aspect of it. Point is, we're going to get the double whammy. How on God's green earth? And I truly do question this, because I am actually baffled. Because as I say, as much as I don't want Kamala to win, the very obvious thing to do is just go on Joe Rogan's show. How they could be so obtuse as to not realize this is actually baffling. I mean, when you look at the betting odds are wildly in favor of Trump. I mean, we're talking like a 30-point difference. It is insane. And you're telling me you think it's a bad idea to go on the most popular podcast in the world, and then you want to claim that you've got, if we do this, here's the stipulations? That doesn't make you look like somebody agreeable. I'm sure there's going to be even lefties in the comments that watch this, if this video even gets any sort of promotion or anything like that. There's going to be lefties in the comments that are like, damn it, why isn't she doing this? I mean, for no other reason than because you should want her message spread to the most amount of people as possible. But again, no one ever accredited with the liberals having an overabundance of brains. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at Both the Word. And please do subscribe. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day. I get it, this wasn't particularly nerdy, but again, the election's in 5 days, guys. This stuff is heating up, and it is interesting. But by all means, check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon, and become a member for $4.99 a month. You can join the Discord, choose the articles I go over on a day-to-day basis, choose the videos I react to on my Friday night live streams, and of course, get involved with over 140 other vital idols. We are a bright, beautiful, glowing, vibrant community that I cannot wait to grow even further, because we do care about diversity. But only one kind of diversity of thought. If that's interesting to you, join the Discord, hit subscribe, and until next time, it is all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.